Welcome back to Let's Start a Band podcast. It is incredible, my guest today. Most bands never make it past their first 10 gigs. The band we have today have got booked for BBC Introducing stage at Boardmasters. They've got a brand new single out at the end of the month, and we're going to hear all about it today. This podcast is for musicians who are serious about building a real career. I'm Josh. I work with artists on their social media strategy, and every episode we sit down with someone actually doing it and living it. Today we are in for a treat. We have 3 days of wonder with us, a young original British band. They've got BBC Radio Player. They've had sold out Music Venue Trust fundraiser, dropping a single, and of course the big slot at Boardmasters. So I am very excited. Guys, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Take me back to the very beginning. Where did this band start from? When did you knew it was going to be something? Paint the picture for me.
So this band's almost been going for about 3 years now, and it kind of started as quite a lot of bands start, I think, which is kind of a project with mates from school, and then it kind of developed from there really. I pretty early on realized how much I enjoyed kind of being up there on stage with this band, and writing music in this sort of kind of anthemic rock, slightly kind of edgy sort of vibe, and how much I enjoyed that. And yeah, it kind of developed from there really. We've had kind of people come and go, which has been great. I mean, I think that's a really healthy thing for a kind of developing project, making sure that everyone who's kind of in the system is kind of on the same stretch and wants that path, as I guess myself and the band wants to be on, I guess. So yeah, that's kind of how it came about.
Talk to me about your first proper gig. What did it teach you? How did you feel going on stage for the first time? Talk to me.
So my first gig with this band was in 2023 in June. And it was actually the village I'm living in now. It's called Bishopsgate, and it's down in Devon. And we very kindly got offered a slot to go and play the main stage at the kind of village festival, which was wicked. And it was a really cool opportunity. And I think what it taught me is just how much like I just really enjoyed that feeling of kind of being up there. And we were really lucky because it was such a kind of supportive environment, which I think is so important for your first gig. And yeah, that's just reminded me actually on that day, we did like a double gig day. So we had that as our first gig, and then we went off and did a battle of the bands on the same day. So it was a pretty quick second gig.
Amazing. Now, when I take a look at your stuff, I can really hear some of your influences, maybe kind of Foo Fighters, U2. Who were some of the bands that you listened to growing up? Who are some of your big influences?
I listen to a lot of Foo Fighters, like you say. I do like that kind of more heavy side, but I do like the kind of, like you say, like anthemic kind of 80s inspired stuff as well. That sounds really like coherent and good, I think, for a writing style.
Absolutely.
And then myself personally, like particular artists that I kind of listened to growing up. I mean, it was a lot of U2. It was quite a lot of kind of Kings of Leon. I was born in 2006, so it's kind of like that was the time when I think it was in 2008 when in Kings of Leon released Only by the Night. So like some of my earliest memories of kind of being like 3 or 4 years old, with mum and dad, listening to like Sex on Fire, Use Somebody, when that album was really in its heyday and really taking off. So yeah, that's kind of some of my earliest memories of kind of that sort of style, I guess.
It really was an iconic album at the time. If you guys were to meet Bono in a lift, you have time for one question. What would you ask him?
Oh, that is a good question. I mean, like, I think it's got to be some sort of question about Joshua Tree. I think like that album for me, like just the inspiration behind that album, I think would be my question. Like, what inspired you to kind of create that project as something that was such a massive album, and what it ended up being. And I think it was just like, yeah, the kind of thoughts behind those lyrics are something that's really special. And there's a lot of kind of religious, I think, kind of influence in that as well. So just kind of what his inspiration was, and what the overriding kind of goal, I guess, was for that album. That would probably be what I'd ask him.
It's actually the album I'm named after. I mean, that's how that's how in my family I was called Adam for the first few days of my life, and then it changed to Joshua after that. So back to you guys. I think a lot of people listening to this, we get a lot of questions coming from the podcast from young bands, and they say, how do we get booked? What's the best way of doing it? Do we pitch to promoters? We can't get an agent, it's too early on. Is it word of mouth? You guys have played some incredible, I mean, genuine bucket list venues in London and Plymouth. How do you get there? How do you go from doing that show in your local village to doing that? Give them some tips.
Yeah, I think it's just like it's really just about, you know, especially in those early days, like really just seizing every opportunity you can. Because you really never know what is gonna come, even if it's something where you're like, oh, that might, if it's an unpaid show or if it's a gig where it's like, oh, we're not entirely sure if that's something that totally aligns with our sound or, something like that. I think it's just about in those early days really getting out there and grabbing every opportunity you can. Because you generally never know. I mean, some of the festivals that we've played down here, like Great Estate Festival, for example, which we played last year, which was headlined by Supergrass, and like festivals headlined by Feeder and Razorlight and that sort of thing that we've played main stages at. It's kind of like they've come from literally just being in the right place at the right time that we wouldn't have done if we said, right, that gig doesn't totally align with what we're trying to achieve, if that makes sense. So it's just about getting out there and really just seizing every opportunity you can and not taking anything for granted, I think, as well. Really understanding that you need to get out there in order to develop your craft and hone what you're doing, and that will lead on to the bigger opportunities.
I love that advice for people listening. I think that's absolutely amazing to hear from someone living and breathing it. And knowing you guys for a little while now, you really protect your reputation in terms of the way you treat people in the industry and following up and being lovely, but also you protect your brand and that look that you come across, that reputation. I mean, it really does matter in this industry. Everyone knows everyone. What's the biggest mistake you see young bands make when it comes to starting out?
Um, Trying to think. I mean, maybe just kind of like what Luke said, just not getting yourself out there. And I think a lot of people kind of take the social media side of thing like too much, and they go kind of all in on that, and then they don't do stuff in real life. Sort of thing. I've seen a couple in my local area, just kind of and they might be doing well on social media and stuff and have good ideas, but I mean, I think a lot of people just need to get into those little gigs and just start small because that's just how you got to work your way up the ladder.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's really important to, before you start, like as an up and coming artist, like, I think it's really important to work on your local scene and not just, I mean, for us in the Southwest, it is quite a small scene, but it's like, being able to go, right, we're gonna really hone in on this local scene and then we're gonna go and do shows in, Bristol and London and that sort of thing.
Loyal fan base.
Yeah, definitely. And I think to kind of jump straight out of your local scene and say, "Oh, we only want to do shows in this area," or whatever, like, I think is a mistake.
Yeah.
I think there's something really powerful about having that local that local audience on board with what you're doing. Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. I could not agree more. And it's like you build that up, you're exclusive there, go to Bristol, conquer, go to London, conquer. I love that mentality. You guys obviously talk to me about the Music Venue Trust fundraiser. Why do you do that? How do you get around that? I mean, there's challenges that doing that as a band, but it's also a cause I know you like a lot.
Yeah, so I mean, like how we kind of got into that sort of world, I guess, is a little bit is like I I think it was in like late 2023, early 2024. Some of the money that we'd actually made from gigging, that was kind of like my personal money. I decided to put into music venue properties, which obviously work very close with Music Venue Trust. Um, and then I went down kind of a bit of a rabbit hole. I mean, that was quite, it was still not long after kind of COVID and that really dry period where people weren't allowed to go out and experience live music and those bigger shows like literally just couldn't happen. And it was kind of understanding that ecosystem at the minute, the unsigned ecosystem, is kind of struggling. Like there's a lot of venues out there that are really struggling at the minute, and I think it was just kind of like I wanted to do something that was more than just invest a little bit of money. We wanted to put on a night where we could raise some genuine money that really would make a difference. I mean, collectively over the two shows that we've done raising money for Music Venue Trust, we've made um like I think about £2,800 now, which is great, and it's like as a kind of an artist from Devon as well, because like there's people like Sam Fender who I think did like 25 grand or something like that, towards Music Venue Trust, which is obviously great. But I think, as a smaller artist, like £2,800 is a lot of money for us, like we could go and do quite a lot of recording for that, but to say, right, we're gonna put that towards something that's a really good cause. yeah, I think there's something like decently powerful in that.
I remember speaking to Sam Fender backstage and him talking to me about, if you don't have these grassroots venues, we're going to run out of future headliners. And it's so true.
Yeah.
You need that. I want to talk a little bit now, guys, about BBC Introducing. And obviously, I go to some of their events and help with their socials. And I'm really passionate about what I do for them because I see the difference it makes in careers. Take Olivia Dean, a few years ago, before meets no one, to now where she's at, coming through that process. I know Dan Pascoe's really pushed you guys for BBC Introducing Southwest. So my question for you guys is, how did you first get on their radar? What does the submission process actually look like? Talk me through that whole thing of now playing Boardmasters 2026.
Yeah, so I think I was part of a local youth music group called Powder Live, which is great. It was, one of these organizations where it tries to bring young musicians together, who are really passionate, and tries to kind of encourage them to just work with other people in the area who are like-minded, basically. They managed to get Dan to come down and do a kind of talk about BBC Introducing and what it means. Which kind of, that's when I first met Dan, and that kind of really inspired me to, as like, BBC Introducing was something that 3 Days of Wonder really wanted to kind of, be a part of and really try and get on there. And I think we got our first single played by them in 2024. And since then we've had really, really consistent support from them, which is amazing. And it makes such a difference, like, to now where we are with them, to be offered that slot of Boardmasters. I mean, when we got the email through, we were just buzzing, to be fair. It was like, it was so good. I mean, I remember getting the email through on my laptop and I literally like jumped out of my chair, so much so my cats like went like feral, just like running around the room because they thought something catastrophic was happening. But yeah, I think as well, like, as an artist in the Southwest, it's kind of, it can sometimes feel quite a little bit isolated, because there is a limited number of venues, as opposed to somewhere like London or Manchester, where there's a lot going on a lot of the time. To be able to have that support from BBC Introducing to go and do these bigger opportunities like Boardmasters is really special, and it's really something that kind of, helps, I guess, inspire you and keep you driving forward with what you're doing, because you're on the right path if you're getting things offered like that, which is which is great. I mean, I'm a massive advocate for BBC Introducing. They've been awesome for us.
Absolutely, and they're really backing you, and it shows. And I think that progression is so important. Guys, you've got a single dropping this month. What's the story behind it? What can you tell us? What can't you tell us? Yeah, what's the song about?
Oh, it was before my time. They recorded this one. You'll have to.
Yeah.
That's it, because
Yeah, Josh joined the band. Oh, it's so funny. Like, we say he's like a fairly new member, but Josh has been in almost 7 months now, which is crazy. Like, to think how quickly that 7 months has kind of gone from the start of the year. But yeah, I mean, over and out. I mean, this is a song that, like, I'm really excited about releasing. To be fair, it's quite kind of, it's a little bit different from some of the stuff that we've released, in the sense of it's a bit more intimate in the kind of verses, and then still has that kind of powerful sort of anthemic feeling in the chorus. It's kind of inspired a little bit by bands like Snow Patrol, I guess, a little bit more, and then still with having that kind of 80s feeling in the chorus. And I think what this song is about, like, over and out, I mean, the clue's kind of in the title. It's sort of just about stuff kind of coming to an end, and kind of understanding it's not about a breakup, but like, it can kind of be interpreted in that way. And it's kind of about saying, I guess, you were there and you're not there now, and that's kind of okay. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of one of those things. And yeah, so it's coming out the 28th of June, which we're very excited about. We can say that now because we've released that date. Honestly, just buzzing for this one.
Yeah, it sounds fantastic. I'm really excited to take a listen. Guys, a lot of bands put out a single and then go quiet. You're very good at being intentional with socials, so keeping momentum going after, before release, or if you haven't got events. We're really proud to have you at LMS UK with your social media manager, brand manager, and opportunities manager here. What advice would you have for artists? And I think you summed it up well. You shouldn't obsess too much over streams and followers. Your asset is your music, of course, but actually building that fan base is important, and building these super fans that come to shows, buy merch, make it sustainable. So what's your attitude to socials?
I mean, the way I've kind of always looked at it is like, what would I want to see from like another band? And kind of just put yourself in your audience's shoes and go like, well, would I just want us, standing in front of the camera with our music playing, or would I want, a skit for that has a kind of like good sense of humor, like we've done for the Barrow House gig and for the Plymouth gig that we played the other week. I think it's just, and we got a lot of feedback from that sort of content, and it just did really well, and people really liked it, and it was kind of a change of pace to what you see a lot on the kind of music side of social media. I think it's just important to just have fun with it and just kind of do what you would want to see.
I love
Yeah.
that. I think take inspiration from others, see how you can make it relevant and
definitely.
improve. I really like that.
I think as well, like from the social media point of view, like, it is such a prevalent thing in kind of, being a musician in this day and age. And I think it is quite a special thing, really, in my opinion, because it kind of gets you, obviously you get that opportunity to connect with fans at shows, which is great in person, but also gives you that opportunity to kind of maintain that relationship, I guess, when you're not actually, when you're not out there performing, when you're not seeing people in person. Yeah, I think it's really, really important to kind of like an important thing to kind of get right as well with your messaging, which like you guys have been really helpful with us, understanding like, right, what's our kind of message that we want to deliver on our platforms, and making sure that we're doing that in the right way as well.
Yeah, it's progressing really nicely, and I feel like people know those values, and they realize when they do finally make it to a show how much of a special experience and exciting that's going to be. I think that's really, really key, and it's a real community feel to what you're doing, which I love. I absolutely love. Guys, I want to get some of your comments on the latest music news this week. So, a few bits coming through. Rod Stewart is in hot water after attending World Cup game just hours after abruptly cancelling a concert. So that's not a great look on him, but we don't know the background details. Johnny Marr announces a new album, which is fantastic. I'm a big fan of Johnny, and it was an absolute pleasure to work with him. Download Festival was this weekend, had huge success. Very, very committed in terms of people that go to Download, they seem to keep going, and they're really good at retaining their audience. And then the big news, Gorillaz at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium had a bit of backlash with how expensive tickets were for it. They've come out and said, look, it's because of the guest performers we have. They have Johnny Marr, Shaun Ryder, Little Sims, amongst others. Guys, how do you feel about ticket prices? I mean, you want to go see an amazing band, Gorillaz, but it's costing hundreds of pounds to go and see them. As an artist yourself, do you understand it because the venue production, understand the background of the business and everything's rising? Or do you think that music fans are just getting, they're just getting costed out of things at the moment, across all things, not just music?
I think it's tricky at the minute. I think it's a really kind of prevalent problem at the minute that people can't afford to go, to go and see music, because it's such a special thing going and seeing a live show. And I've seen there's been quite a few artists who are having to actually cancel, big artists who are having to cancel their tours because they haven't got, they just haven't had the wave of people buying tickets in the same way that they have previously. So yeah, no, I think it's a really prevalent issue, and I understand that, like, obviously everything is expensive at the minute, so it is really tricky. But I also think there is like a fine line between kind of, you've still got to make it affordable for people to be able to go. I think that's a really important thing.
Absolutely. And well said as well. Well, guys, I want to say 3 Days of Wonder are proof that progression is a strategy, not luck. When their single is out, go and stream it. Make sure you follow them everywhere. I'll put the link below in case you don't have it. But it's absolutely amazing to have them on here. I think 3 Days of Wonder, in 10 years of doing this as a business, can go right to the very top. So support them now, jump on it. It'll be fantastic, the ride they've got ahead of them. Guys, thank you so much for coming on today. I really appreciate it. Musicians and fans listening, I really appreciate you. Make sure you follow. Before we go, guys, do you have any last messages for the listeners?
Go follow us, go see us live, and go stream our new song on the 28th of June.
You've heard it there. Guys, thank you so much for coming on to Let's Start a Band.
Thanks for having me.
Cheers, Josh.
Cheers.
Thank you.